No black cats, just straight facts.
Triple P certified.
Listen, we can talk about odds all day. It doesn't matter what the odds are. It matters what's gonna happen.
Welcome to the Pro Play Pursuit. We got a guest who needs no introduction. If you're a fan of the show, you've seen him on here multiple times. He's coming in hot with a big announcement, a Triple P exclusive. We're going to get right to it, everybody, and then we'll be back in another episode to talk about predictions for this weekend, Henry Cejudo versus Sidong Yadong Song. And without further ado, Joe Solecki, welcome to the show.
Yo, what's up, guys? This is
Joe.
nice. This is like one of the first times I'm talking to you guys, and I'm not like nervous about something that's coming up in the couple days to follow.
We'll start there. I mean, it must be a huge, weird weight off your shoulders in a way. Tell us how you're feeling. What's going on in your world?
Yeah, I mean, I announced it on Monday. Yeah, Monday morning, and but for a couple weeks, realistically, since we got back from the hotel from the fight, that was like the knee-jerk response, and not out of like anger or emotion. It was just like I went in because like two of my buddies were there that we train with. One is kind of newer to fighting, but he's a darn good fighter. But and he's a very successful entrepreneur. It's very weird how good he is at fighting for how successful he is in business. It's like Bruce Wayne stuff. But him and one of the kickboxing coaches from our gym were out there. They were like, "Oh, we're not coming back to the room. Like, you just lost. It's gonna be furious." Casey's like, "I promise you, it's not gonna be that." And then me and Casey just talked while I was getting showered and changed and stuff. We talked for like 10 minutes, and we were like, "Yeah, I think pretty sure this is it." Like, but I also figured they were gonna cut me. You know what I mean? Even though I understand the general consensus from people that weren't in the emails between my management and them were like, "Oh, you're doing them a favor." It's like, well, they kind of made it sound like they were doing me one, So maybe I was a little bit pessimistic in that regard. And then, came home, thought it over. Of course, there's a lot that goes into it, but knee-jerk response was that, like, yeah, I'm good. Like, yeah. So got back and then talked about it, and we kind of had a conversation, my wife and I, me and my coach. And then we were like, I just want to know for my own ego, like, I'm not going to say anything. I want to see if I'm going to get released. Because, like, they do it pretty quickly, I feel like, for most people. You know what I mean? Except for contracts that are expired. Those take a little while. And we didn't hear anything. And then I was like, all right, well, now this is kind of like – so I hit up Holtzman. I didn't even tell him. And I was like, hey, like, any idea if they're going to keep me or whatever? He's like, oh, I'll hit up Sean. And then Sean was like, hey, any idea what's next for Joe? And he's like, give me a week or so to come up with something. And I assumed that meant, like, a matchup. And then I was like, oh, man, I was really hoping he was going to say I'd be released. So if that's my they kind of always say, well, like, if you flip a coin and you say, oh, we're going to eat Chinese or pizza if it's heads or tails. When it's in the air, you know what you really want, right? So if I'm hoping he's going to release me, it's time. You know what I mean? So that was kind of the nail in the coffin. And I was talking to my buddy, one of my best friends, Ali, who's been in my corner since I think my pro debut, like all my fights. And we've known each other longer than that. And we were talking and this and that. And I was saying some things and I just stopped myself and I was like, bro, listen, like, not to toot my own horn, but I'm a savage. Like, when would I ever talk like this about like damage or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, whatever. And he's like, that's it. And he's very Brooklyn. So he's like, yeah, baby boy, I was about to say, like, that's it. It's all good. Like, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. So, sat on it for another week or so. And then as I kind of decided I wanted it to be a full month just to make sure it wasn't anything emotional. And then, kind of prayed on it some more, reflected more, and then told my wife one more time. And then Monday morning got up and did it. And of course, had cold feet right before that. And then after that, it was a done deal. And like you said, with relief, I texted John Salter maybe like 2 weeks after the fight when I kind of made that decision. And I was like, hey, when you retired, did you feel like 1,000-pound gorilla got off your chest that you didn't know was there? And he's like, it was probably one of the best days of my entire life. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. So for something I loved so much and love so much, I can't believe how good I feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, man, guys, somebody say something because I'm at a loss for words for the first time in the show's history. I mean, I'm kind of it's very bittersweet. I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you're happy about the decision. I'm happy that you made it with confidence. But somebody else say something.
Well, let me just say this. Congratulations on an amazing career. Hold on there, Alex. I'm talking first. Congratulations on the career. Number 2, do you have any retirement plans as far as like a retirement vacation? You going out on an island, drinking Mai Tais, or are you going back to the gym, focusing on grappling or coaching or whatever it is? Where are you at here?
I think we needed a win bonus for a vacation. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, so really, I came home and like I was a little banged up, so I really had to get right to work on stuff because I can't just sit still. It's just not for me. So we started working on some stuff for the gym, and I'm gonna be taking on a bigger role at the gym, which is pretty exciting. We have to wait for a couple things, but some really cool stuff is happening at Gym O, and we'll kind of be a big part of it. And then I bought new mats for All In, so a bunch of stuff, and then just started working on business stuff for that. I want to get venues, all this stuff. I wasn't really able to train for like 2 weeks, which kind of sucked. I was teaching, obviously, and then because I broke my orbital on my right side, I already had a left broken one before. So now I think instead of having a lazy eye in photos, I'll just have 2 lazy eyes, which therefore are they even lazy if both of them are? And then I cracked something in my upper jaw. I had a fracture in my jaw, so I was just kind of chilling and teaching, and then working on that stuff. So just right back to work, and I was like, man, like this is busier than fighting. Fighting is the easiest thing that I do, and so now going forward, it'll be coaching and helping run the show at the gym, and then running All In, and then my third thing is going to be I definitely want to compete in jiu-jitsu. That's my plan, at least. So and again, like my one buddy was like, man, you're masters now, and I was like, no, listen, like the whole All In thing is like going all in on things. Like if I'm going to do this, I'm a professional athlete still. Like I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I hope it's at a very high level. So but again, like kind of along with the retirement decision, it's like when I watch a lot of things and I'm around a lot of people, like I love watching little mini docs and stuff. And when you watch, like, just say like David Taylor or Jordan Burroughs or somebody, like it's super intense. They train super hard, but they're able to have an element that is a little more at ease, it seems, than fighting, right? Like you'll see them go to workouts with their kids with them. You'll see them be able to travel in the middle of their preparation and still get their work in and things like that. And have other endeavors. Like David Taylor was running a couple businesses, like juice stores and stuff, I believe. Jordan Burroughs has a wrestling club. Like, there's all these things with like, and jiu-jitsu is the same way, right? Like, we had a guy in North Carolina who was coming through to do a seminar 2 weeks before ADCC, and then you just grab the best training partners you can in that area to train. Like, you can focus on other endeavors. Where if you were fighting and you were doing that, I feel like that would be. I know I would be like, man, this guy's not focused. Like, so it just feels like there can be an avenue there to still scratch the itch and also kind of finish unfinished business, because I kind of left right before I got my black belt. And, my wins at black belt are very minimal and nothing worth talking about, So, but right before that was beating some of the best guys in the world at brown belt. So it's kind of cool to go out and be like, all right, let's see where we stack up. I think I know, but it'd be cool to go show it. So that would be the 3 things I really want to focus on. Like even today, like we had a hard wrestling practice right before this. I was late because we had that dinner because I snuck a workout. Like nothing's really changed. There's just a lot more focus on maybe the X's and O's of grappling. And I'm not going to spar for like probably 4 to 5 months and just let some stuff heal and let the brain heal and do all that. So,
Alex, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to know how you felt about smelling salts. We have an unofficial sponsor here, and by unofficial I mean they don't pay us any money, but they sent us the product at the very least. And believe me, Joe, like I really love this stuff. It's amazing. I think you should try it sometime. I'm just kidding.
People love it, but
it's not my cup of tea personally.
It scares me. Yeah, I'm scared to look that week.
It is I'm sorry. I love it. I really do love it. I love how it makes me feel, and I love the way it smells more than anything. But most importantly, how do you feel about the Birds winning the Super Bowl? I know you're kind of on an island by yourself down there in South Carolina, correct?
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
I get those two confused.
We have a sports team here. That's the thing. Like when you're in Myrtle Beach or Wilmington, like you'll get a kind of a mix of all kinds of fans. But here we do have a sports team. It just happens that they suck. So a lot of people jump ship. Like we have the Panthers here. And that's the thing. Like my wife was always like, "Oh, if they ever play the Panthers here, like we should go watch the Eagles." Like you can't watch your first Eagles game in Charlotte, North Carolina. Like it's got to be at the Link. But dude, that was awesome. Like that was amazing. The fact That should be a telltale sign too, where I'm like, I know it has nothing to do with my fighting career, but I think I would have sacrificed the last fight to watch the Birds win the Super Bowl. But it was awesome, man. That was a blast. The whole playoff run was just a blast, and yeah, we enjoyed the heck out of it. Now we don't know what to do with ourselves because I like baseball. I like the Phillies, but my wife's not gonna sit and watch a game. It's too slow for her. And then there's so many games. It's like, man, like I really can't follow the way I want to. So it's like, just gotta wait till preseason now. Now what? So, I mean, I guess we watch hockey and stuff too, but I don't know. We're kind of all in on the Eagles thing.
I love that, and I can't blame you at all. You can't watch baseball until October, or
Yes.
September at the very least, when we're on that playoff push.
That's exactly right.
Joe, you said you broke your orbital. When did that happen? In the
fight, I assume.
What round? You know?
I assume when he dropped me. I hope that means my chin wasn't going, and that was actually a hard shot because he shifted the bones in my face. But I don't know. It wasn't as bad as in the past. But I jinxed it. I was like, man, I got hit hard, but I was like, yeah, I can blow my nose. Nothing swelled up. And as soon as I did it, my cheek started swelling up in the hotel room. I was like, But it wasn't as bad as when I broke the other side. That was like my teeth were numb for like 7 months. So not as bad. What's that?
When did you break the other side?
3 weeks before my first fight ever, my first amateur fight.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
In the gym.
Yeah, my teeth were numb. With 16-ounce gloves. That's how bad I was. I shot right into a guy's overhand. And my eyes swelled shut, and then my teeth were numb for like 7 or 8 months. And I just never went to the doctor. And then when I lost the fight at CFFC, they made me go to the hospital. And they did a CT. And I'm like, hey, you have a fusion on the left side of your face. And like they described all the symptoms I would have had. I was like, oh, yeah, that was, X amount of time ago. It's like, oh, it healed itself. So, and this one started to heal itself already. I went for like a follow-up, and they were like, yeah, there's nothing we got to do for it. It's already it's time indeterminate. I'm like, well, okay. I went into a fight with no pain in my face and no numbness, and I came out with pain and numbness and a crack in the face. So I'm going to say it's from that fight, guys. But, yeah, he hit hard. He wasn't technical, but he was just winging hard, kind of falling into his shots and hiding that takedown behind it, which was pretty good.
So I guess part of me, because when you said, starting to think about damage, I'm like, well, looking at your career from the outside looking in, I know you had the Nicholas Mata fight, you had the fight where you got dropped on your head, and then this fight, it didn't look like you took a lot of damage at all. So I'm like, compared to guys that like people are begging to retire because they have been knocked out time and time again and like in a row and multiple knockouts within a short amount of time, I'm like, you don't seem like the guy who would be worried about damage or like would even like be considering that now might be the time. Like it felt
No, it's more so when you start weighing that as like costs and benefit kind of ratio. And when you start talking like that, now you're talking like a businessman, and it's like fighting is a business, but I'm not a businessman. You know what I mean? I have my hand in a couple, but yeah, I'm not a businessman. Like even at the gym, like, yeah, I teach martial arts. Like I'm not a businessman. Like, yeah, we're helping run a business, but that's not what it's about, And the same thing with fighting. Like, yeah, you got to protect yourself and brand yourself, but also like it's about the fight. So like when you're talking about like, well, I don't really make this much to put my life on hold and wait for that, it's but no, it's not one of those situations. Like we had a guy we knew who I like a lot and went to the press conference and was like, yeah, if you guys knew what the doctors told me, I'm like, he doesn't have any injuries. What is he talking about? Like maybe bad knees? Like I hate the dramatics with that. It's not that, what it really is like, we talked about it today in practice. Actually, my coach was talking about it. He's talking about, hard, how there's different types of hard. And he was talking about, if it's in your wheelhouse, then it's really not that hard, right? Like airdyne sprints are hard, but if you are prone to doing them and you like them, it's really not as bad as doing slow technical work to actually get better, right? Or putting yourself in bad positions or sparring in a way you wouldn't normally fight so you can get better. And it was like, this is easy hard for me fighting. Like it's hard. A fight camp is grueling, but it comes so naturally to me. When you look at, like what the layout, like there's a couple things that went into it. I love to fight. My rule of thumb was always if I lost 3 in a row. I just thought that was probably a sign that the results aren't there and you're slipping. I would say it would have been very easy to kind of spin this and be like, well, the Jakar thing you kind of throw out. It's a weird situation. The next one is a real loss to a top 15 guy. Okay. And then you go, okay, well, I kind of ran out of time in this one and felt good. But that's not how rules of thumb kind of work. You don't really break them, right? So it was that first and foremost. And then it was just looking at the lifestyle, right? Like I don't make enough money to keep going back there and risking what I've already done. Like, I think I've done some pretty cool things. I don't want my kids to ever look back and be like, man, you were really, yes, I lost 3 in a row. But again, I just kind of described how I look at it. I think how a lot of people look at it. I don't want to go out there like, Dad, you really lost your chin, or you really got fragile, or I never want to be that guy that like people feel bad for. You know what I mean? Like, we've had teammates like that. Like, every time they sign a fight, they're going out to slaughter. Like, no one thinks they have a chance. No one wants to interview them. Like, because they know it's just a formality. They're just going out there to take a check. And if I was making top 10 money and main event money, then maybe it is worth that. You don't care about legacy. I see the value in that, but it's just not that. So when you start looking at that, it's like, man, like there's these other avenues we can start pouring into and really provide some stability. And, like, obviously we never take care of my family pretty well the last couple of years, especially fighting. But when you start looking at the other avenues, you're like, man, like if I could just kind of set multiple dates for my competition and really focus on the back end of the gym, holy cow, like that might be the hard thing instead of the easy hard, which is just a fight camp. Wait till Shelby calls. They might call in 10 months. They might call in 2 months. And you don't know, and it's like, man, like I think hard is actually doing what's kind of best for the family and best for, also for kind of a brand going forward. Like, I don't want to keep going out there. I don't want to say at a disadvantage, but like, again, like when you're looking at it like a business, when you watch, I've been watching all the fights since the last fight because I just still love it so much. And you're like, oh man, this new guy is 1-0 at 55. Like, and that's kind of a tough match. Like, you don't want to be dodging landmines. That's not how I came into this, where you're trying to look to keep your job instead of look to climb the ranks. And when it shifts to that, it just doesn't feel like it's not why I came to do this. I didn't come into fighting to do that. I came into fighting to, number one was like my goal was to get to the UFC. Like, I was around a bunch of guys that I felt like were squandering their potential. And I was like, man, if I had this opportunity, I would run with it. Like, and then in pursuing that, got hit with all of the, you'll never do this. You can't do this. This is too hard. This is stupid. And then it was like, oh, buddy, okay, like now the UFC is the goal. And then, and then the goals change when you get there. That's why I put in the post. Like, sure, I fell short of quite a few of them as well. But man, this was kind of never supposed to happen. So it was never really that thing. It was an ambition thing. And I would hate to sacrifice like some really good opportunities that we've been presented with to kind of do personal fulfillment. I don't think that's really fair to anybody, and I think that's kind of a slippery slope. I watched a lot of friends go down that slope. And we watched a lot of legends that we care about who I don't even know, as a fan, where you're like, man, they're trying to go out on a win so bad, and now they're on a 6-fight losing streak. Like, I just don't want to do that. I'd rather go out with dignity, and so that was definitely probably the biggest factor in it. I just don't want to be the guy that anybody feels bad for. It just feels weird, even with going back to the regional scene, like at a certain point in time, if they cut me off 2 losses, like we thought was going to happen, I think I would have gone back and tried to have 1, 2 more, at a CFFC or something. And now it's like, dude, like, not to sound spoiled, but like, am I going to go sit in the back room at a small casino, making 2,000 and 2,000 and be like, pretending in my brain this is the UFC? Like, that's just a grown up playing make pretend. Like, I already did it at the highest level. Why don't I just enjoy it for what it was and move on to the next best thing? That's how I look at it. But if I was 27, 28, it'd be different entirely. A buddy, Impa Kasaganai, got cut when he was around that age and worked his way back and won $1 million in PFL. So it's just different stages of life and time. But the big thing that I think a lot of people cling to is that identity. And I just don't feel like that is a thing that I struggle with. You know what I mean? Like, especially over the last year or 2 years, it's something I love to do, and I'll always be a fighter. But being a UFC fighter, like, it's just not my identity. And I got to be around a lot of those fight weeks the last maybe 4 months or so, going out there with Weidman and stuff and seeing these highest level guys. And so many of them you start to be around, you're like, man, I kind of feel bad for them. Like, they'll walk in a room and look around, like, anybody recognize me? Anybody want a picture? It's like, I don't want to be that. I just want to move on with my life and start teaching and training. And, if I go to the Worlds in Jiu-Jitsu to compete, I don't, if I place, I'm definitely going to put it out there. But, like, I don't need everybody to know what I'm doing. I might, obviously try to grow a brand maybe a little bit, but it's not for anybody else's, opinion or any of that. And I don't want to keep living for people's opinions. And I think at a certain point, if I was fighting to get another win, that's kind of what it would become. So, sorry, that's really long-winded. I'm kind of rambling, but
no. You're here to be long-winded, and trust me, nobody on this show feels bad for you, and nobody on this show was anything less than surprised by the decision. I mean, without knowing the behind the scenes, I looked at it like finished that fight on top, quite literally in full mount, like in a fight that you took on short notice against a tough guy, an undefeated guy. The fight before that, Grant Dawson, I mean, Grant Dawson is Grant Dawson. He's in the top 15. He's in the top
Man.
10. You know, he's a stud. And that was a close fight. And that was a close fight where you lost positionally. You lost positions. You didn't lose.
That's the frustrating part, right? Is
about
like,
your accident.
I know for a fact that I'm the best I've ever been. So that's the frustrating part. Not frustrating, but the part where I can see hanging on. And that's what, like, forever, because we do 2 sparring days in a row at the gym. Friday has like a lighter sparring, and then Saturday's cage rounds. And every Friday, I kind of hate the light rounds because if I'm getting ready for a fight, I want to spar 2 days in a row. So me and my coach would always hit pads. So like maybe like 2 weeks ago, he texted me on Thursday night. I was like, hey, pads tomorrow? Because I want to keep getting better. I want to become a better pad holder too for the guys that I'm going to train. But I almost texted back no, because I'm like, dude, this is a gateway drug. Like, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna start cracking, and my brain's gonna start work, And that's exactly what happened. And it's like, dude, like, because you go, oh man, like every fight you level up when you get back. Like, doesn't matter win, lose, or draw, you just level up. And I'm like, man, like this is sharper, that's sharper. And my brain, I had to stop it. Like, you're gonna feel like this probably into my 40s. I would imagine, at least as being a sparring partner, like I'm gonna go out there and spar with these young guys still, and I can't imagine I'm going to slip it all. And you're going to feel like I can still do this. And it's like, yeah, but can you do it when it counts? And then is the juice worth the squeeze? But that is the frustrating part, like the Dawson fight or those fights. Like so much that you don't get to show in an entire career. You hear a guy like Jim Miller has 50 UFC fights and he says it, He's like, man, I've never hit a Kimura. I've never hit a this. Like wall work was always kind of a great thing for me. I kept getting taken out in the open, or hit the cage. And as soon as we hit, they took me down. He's like, man, I never got to show good defensive wall work or offense, whatever it is, elbows. And that's the part that is kind of frustrating. But that's the part where I was like, don't be shocked if I end up going on vacation to Thailand with my wife in 2 or 3 years and taking a Thai fight or something for fun and for a test instead of I'm just done prize fighting. You know what I mean? Like I'm done fighting MMA for sure. I'm 100% done fighting MMA. But like I just want to do fun things. Like if I was in a little better shape to wrestle, there's the Davidson Open this week down in North Carolina. It's a Division I tournament, but it's an open tournament. So a couple of guys from the gym are doing it. I would absolutely hop in that. And that'd be my first tournament of all time. So it's like I'm still going to go test myself, but it's one of those things where it's like I'm just on prize fighting. But in the fight specifically, I will say, as soon as I got taken down early on in the first round, I didn't like how I felt like mentally about it. Like it just felt like a continuation of the last fight. It felt like round 4 of the Dawson fight. And in my brain, like instead of my brain being like, I want to get this guy, I was like, this is stupid. Like I don't even want to do this. Like I'm just gonna be held down again for 3 rounds. Here we go. And then in round 2, a little better because the triangle attempt, I'm like, he was fading. And then in round 3, it felt like something clicked in my brain of like, all right, he's tired. We know that. I feel great. Which I was telling you guys and everybody I interviewed before the fight, I was like, this is not short notice. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in going into a fight. He was exhausted. And then I started getting, I got hit pretty hard, but I landed a lot of shots. And then ended the fight in mount. I said, like, that felt like the Rocky 6, like the stuff in the basement was just gone. Like I looked at my wife in the back and I was like, I'm just good. Like I don't have anything I want to fight about anymore. As weird as that sounds. Like my whole career was like piss and vinegar. Like I was trying to prove something to myself and the world, And I mean, the only thing left to prove would have been being a champion or being top 15. And that's kind of out. You know what I mean? So it's like, aside from that, I got nothing left to prove. So like at that point, if you're not feeling like you want to go out and, run through somebody at that point, which I felt like I did in the 3rd round. And then after that, I'm like, yeah, I feel like I just got rid of everything I had left to give. And it's on to the next thing. Like there was never a tear, never a nothing, never mad, frustrated. It was kind of like a celebration. It was very strange. I did not expect to ever be in a position like that coming off of. But I also never thought coming off 2 losses, I fight feeling good and not messed up about job being on the line. And well, I did. I felt fine walking out and warming up felt awesome. And then I guess in hindsight, my job was not on the line, I guess. But yeah, so just the whole thing was a weird, like, it was just one of those you walk back and you're like, I'm good. I've done what I came to do or didn't. And it's on to the next best thing now.
Yeah. I play devil's assistant. You can't have a comeback until you go away. So at the end of the day, if a year from now you are hitting the pads and you're like, man, I'm bored as hell. Or like Demetrius Johnson says, he's like, once you get out of fighting, you kind of realize, and I guess for him it's a little bit different having fought for been a champion and was making a lot more money for a fight, But he's like, fighting is the easiest way to make money. He's like, when you get out there and you're, you have to make money in other ways, you realize like, damn, all I had to do was fight for 15 minutes or 30, 25 minutes and I would make way more money than this. Now I got to be here for all this time. So not to drag you back into thinking about something like that. And I know that you said you're 100% done MMA, but it's,
well,
to me,
I would say that's the thing, is if I had to go, and not a knock on a real job, but I never had to have, I mean, I've had a real job, but I was with the purpose of, like, in my head, I'm like, I can't sit still. Like, that's just not for me.
Yeah.
I dropped out of college. Like, and here's the thing, like, I dropped out for sure, but I also got a letter that was like, hey, like, we don't exactly want you to come back because you're kind of bringing down the average here. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like I was excelling. So it's like, I just don't sit still well. So I was like, if I had to get done and go do that, that might be an entire, I'd probably fight until I was 100 years old and take every regional payday, and I'd be worse than Tony Ferguson. You know what I mean? But the fact that there's other avenues, I think that black belt in jiu-jitsu is kind of like your college degree for a lot of guys. Like, because you can actually go teach. You can actually go, leverage that in the next thing. And that's the big one, because I agree. Like, it's so nice to get paid. It's bad and it's good, right? You get paid in a lump sum. But you have to stretch it. That's the bad thing. But the good thing is, you're good. Like, you don't have to worry about your boss coming in the day before payday and be like, hey, this is your last paycheck. So that would be kind of a problem, So that if that was the case, I would see me fighting for a long time. But the other thing is, man, it's so – and for me, the camps and everything, like, I gave everything. And I think that's why there's, like, peace at the end of this. Like, there's nothing else I could have done. Like, however good or bad I was however good or bad I was meant to be. But, like, there was nothing left to give. Like, you have to be so selfish. And after a while, you just kind of get tired of being selfish. Like, I'll still have to be selfish. Like I said to my wife, I was like, listen, like, this ain't the last run I'm going to go for, because I'm going to be doing jiu-jitsu and I'm going to have a competition coming up and I'm going to want to go prep. But I want to. I don't have to. And that's the difference. Like, I don't have to be mean. Like, you don't have to be that way, of course. But, like, it's hard not to be when all that stuff is pressing over you. Like, in the last month since the fight, I have gotten to know so many more people at the gym. Like, I knew all my jiu-jitsu people, but I don't know the kickboxers that well. And then all of a sudden, you're in there and you're talking to people and you're greeting people and you're saying what's up. And you're like, man, this guy's a lovely person. This guy's great. And all of a sudden, I start seeing them want to do jiu-jitsu class. And, like, you're like, man, like, how many people did I blow off because I was just tunnel visioned? Or, I can do grappling and not have to be like that. I don't have to have to be, but it's very hard not to be. And that was kind of one of the things that when I was moving here, my coach was saying, like, I kind of want like a player coach, like a still active, and then because he's like, I'm the coach, but like he's like, I'm old, like I got to, I need boots on the ground. And the kind of the North Star for me was like, I watched a lot of Dave Schultz stuff, and like he was older than everybody else, but not old, and was able to compete and travel and still be a coach, facilitator, and then also a high level competitor, And I was like, man, that's what I want to be. And I thought that was going to be MMA, and I don't think that's really possible at the highest levels in MMA. You know what I mean? But I do see how, if I compete in grappling, how I can be an asset to the team, to the young guys, to the regular students who are just coming to learn martial arts. And I'm like, oh, that's the role. Like, that's the goal now. It's like being selfish for a long time, but now be selfless. As selfless as possible, I think that's probably the best thing to become. For a certain point, I had to do that, right? It got me to where I got. And then it's like, now it's probably the best way to become the guy that God's kind of calling me to be, is to put that aside and be a lot more selfless. And dude, like I said, 6 weeks ago or whatever, before the fight, if you were like, I'll give you any amount of money, you can do whatever job you want to do. Fighting 100% would be the job. And now, if you did the same thing, I promise you, it would be being in the gym, training my own skill set, and working with these people. And I don't know where that shift happened, but the only guess is in the third round of that fight, or after the third round.
Yeah, and I guess it's almost like good and bad that you, or not good and bad, but when you walking away rather than getting cut, like, it almost would have given you more of an easy decision if you were cut, like you said, but then you also would have had the GFL calling you. You would have had, in the back of your mind, you would have had freedom to be like, I can actually probably go get an easier fight for similar money in this organization, that organization, and you would have kept chasing the dragon a little bit.
Well, exactly.
But how many fights do you have left in your contract in the UFC?
Just one.
Just one. So it almost like, I don't think this is the end. I think you're going to come back and get that one fight. I just hey, listen. Everybody's going to be telling you, Joe, I support you. I support you. I'll be the one guy. I love the Voltaire story of like if 10 men in a room agree, or no, if 12 men in a room disagree on something, it's the 13th man's obligation to disagree. I'll be the 13th man and say, Joe, you're not done. You're going to fight again.
But here's the problem now. I'm so competitive that even if everything lined up for that, I would think about this conversation, but I can't let him be right. I gotta stick to it. But no, honestly,
I'm trying to be like the one guy like in a room full of people.
No, Luke. He referenced Dave Schultz. Dave Schultz, his biggest regret is probably not quitting when his brother did and getting out of Foxcatcher before that true. Guy went and iced him, man. Like, come on. Dave Schultz, a personal hero of mine. I don't mean to, make light of the situation, but
that's true. Like this, Paul Felder, fellow Philadelphian, fellow Birds fan, was in your kind of situation. Came back for that fight against or what was it? Did he come back? No, he's always teasing the one fight comeback.
Yeah, see, like that depresses me. That's, really? Maybe I have a skewed view of it, but that depresses me because it's like, bro, don't you have something else to pour? Like you're around fighting every weekend. You have all this knowledge. You could be a great coach. You have a great commentator job. I mean, the low end of the totem pole makes way more than most of the fighters. And it's like, bro, like, so what is missing in your life that you need to go do this to show everybody you're still the man? Like, you're not going to be what you were. So it kind of makes me sad.
I agree. Paul Felder makes me depressed.
Okay, but again, playing devil's assistant, Chael Sonnen, he talks about, just the moments, right? Like, he says one time, like, or what he reflects on is that he was too laser focused to really enjoy just the fight week, the locker room, the walkout, the interviews, the things that like that come along with it that also get taken away when you leave the athletic portion of it, right? But I really do believe you that you are not somebody who gives a shit about that type of stuff.
Well, I had that moment, right? I mean, weeks ago, that was like I had great perspective, and I was like, listen, here's where I'm at. Like, this is what I'm thinking. I was like, none of those things, like interviews or whatever it is. Like, I was like, listen, like at the beginning, it was like, man, I want to go to the PI. I hope they have us back here, like. Because when we went the first time, I don't even have a UFC contract. I'm just there doing media for Contender Series. And you're like, man, like we couldn't even get in the door. You know what I mean? Me and my buddy Ali got there the night before. And we ran to the facility and took a picture in front of the sign because we couldn't get in because I wasn't a UFC fighter. The next day, we were invited for media. And then we had to go home. And then after a while, you're like, okay, I've been here 25 times. Like, it's very cool. But, like, I also have a sauna in my garage now. And I have a cold plunge out back. Like, it's not that different. Like, it's really cool, but then you can only do so much of it, right? It's like an interview. The first time someone wants to interview you, it's like, holy cow, like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to share this out. Like, after a while, you're like, I've done enough media for a lifetime. Less people I want to talk to, all this stuff, like a picture with somebody is very cool. It's flattering, but I'm an awkward social guy. Like, it's actually more uncomfortable than anything. Like, it's not stuff that I like. So then, like, for me, I was like, okay, like, I'm going to miss the actual moments of the fight. I'm going to miss even the weight cut, all of it. Like, it sucks, but I'm going to miss it. And then the day before, or maybe the morning of, when I was going to announce it, I started having those thoughts. And I was like, man, like, because, like, man, like, that's not my identity. Like, those are just things. Those are just worldly things, And then I started having those thoughts, and I had to stop. And I was like, listen, like, those are not, like, godly things. Those are not things that are going to make me a better man. Like, I need to stop. And really, like, stole it from Kirk Cousins on the quarterback documentary, but, like, the Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Like, trust the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. He'll make your path clear. And it's like, that's exactly that. Like, I always have this case. Like, when it's time to go, I promise God's going to make it very clear. I'm either going to lose 3 in a row or get horribly injured. Like, something is going to make it where I've got to go. And it's just all the signs are there. And the way that so many things lined up, I was like, okay, this is just it. Like, but for a second, I had that thought of, like, you're going to miss the PI. And I was like, stop it. Like, I even texted my buddy, and I was like, dude, like, I texted that picture, and I was like, hey, we couldn't even get in the building this time when we were there a couple of years ago. And I was like, and guess what? When we go out for, Vegas Open, we also won't be able to get in the building again. And I was like, but this time we can just take our butts down the street to some spa and go do the same thing. So, like, it's just a different place in life. Like, it's just different. So,
see, you should still be able to get into the PI. You have one fight left on your contract. Retirement is just a word. Hey,
like, I have been. Have you seen Office Space?
Yeah.
Okay. How many viewers do you guys get? Is it a lot? Am I going to get in trouble?
No, not a lot. You can say whatever.
I have been pulling an Initech from the PI monthly for a long time now. We get our supplements, and you're supposed to just top off the ones that maybe you need. And I have been siphoning. I may or may not have 2 years of supplements in my garage and bins to get me through the rest of my jiu-jitsu career. But like I said to Casey, that is like Initech. It's a fraction of a penny. And no, but what I was doing was every time I thought they may not be calling for another fight, I would make sure to order. Like when Shelby originally sent that message, I don't know if I even told him about this. In September, Scott reached out about a fight, and he was like, "No, I don't have anything, but we can let him out his contract, but he can fight elsewhere if he'd like." And I was like, "Wait, no, I released." So like the first thing my crazy brain did, instead of like calling my wife or anything, was open the app and order my supplements before they were moving from the roster. And I have been doing that every time since. And then literally, as the day after the fight on the airplane, I ordered more supplements. And then yesterday morning, or whenever I was going to announce the retirement, I ordered my supplements for the month again. And I was like, "Yo, until Roster Watch takes me off that app, bro, I am because we can do it once a month." I'm like, "Bro, give me your creatine, give me your pre-work, everything you guys got, send it this way." And that's part of my salary in my mind. So,
and in the vein of Office Space, hopefully you just don't misplace a zero one of these times and fuck up the whole thing.
And then I got to bring the PI down.
I have one really important question. Top 5 historical figures that you'd like to go fishing with.
Oh.
That's just a joke. That's just a joke.
So fun. Dude, the funniest part was what a knucklehead, man. Was I like Anik and Florian. I only watch the Ray Longo part because I love Ray. Uh-huh. And when he got on, he was like, the way he said it, because he said he wouldn't be bad to go fishing with. But the way it was just the one comedic timing. He's a very funny guy. He's like, the guy's a lunatic. He wants to go bass fishing with Adolf Hitler. Like when he said bass fishing, I lost my marbles. Just adding that one element to it had me in hysterics. Like, dude, yeah, that guy is unbearable, dude. Like just being around that guy, honestly, like it's like you're hosting a podcast and he's the guest, but you'd never were hosting the podcast. You just said, "Hey, what's up?" And then he just goes on a tirade about how he feels about things. And then you're like, "No, I was just said what's up when you walked in the sauna. I don't actually care. Like, I didn't need to know about flat Earth. You know what I mean? Like, I just said what's up. Like, not to crap on the guy. I know he's going through a thing, but like a little self-awareness here and there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
We don't actually want to know. It's just what's up. It's just hey.
And when you look into it.
When you look into flat Earth, there's some questions. There's things. But anyway, you got one fight left in your contract. We get that one fight done. What do you think about boxing Jake Paul?
I need about 30 more pounds.
I think you're 155 pounds. You're a retired UFC fighter now. I think that we can get you the Jake Paul boxing match. And
that's exactly up his alley. He's like, okay. He's like, "Did you get dropped in one of your last fights?" Okay, perfect. You're a jiu-jitsu guy. You're lighter than me. Jiu-jitsu guy. Longer arms, longer legs.
Please don't ask me any dumb questions.
Take now, and a bunch of steroids, and I would be in the running to actually survive.
Let's get the bag. Say something about Jake Paul right now. Let's secure the bag.
Fight on my behalf because he clowned me that time. Fight on my behalf.
Did he really?
Be my champion.
So Joe, we actually one time when he was about to fight Ben Askren, we were watching this press conference to see Ben's interview, and they let the camera roll too long, and they said something about like, if you want to get press credentials, email this guy, and you can get press credentials. So we just emailed that guy, and we're like, "Hey, we're the Parlay Pursuit podcast. We want to get press credentials to interview Jake and Ben." And they just gave them to us because it was like very early on, Triller, like disorganized. So we got. I think you're probably.
I asked him one question. I got one question. I said, "Will you fight Tommy Fury, Tyron Woodley, or some other dude?" He said, "I don't know who those people are. Don't ask me."
I honestly don't even know who those people are.
Luke,
don't ask me any.
Joe can't see the drops.
Oh, sorry, Joe. You can't see. We have the clips from when Jake just
see it.
Okay, my bad.
That was from that.
That's from that. And then he said, "Please don't ask me any more dumb questions."
Wow.
And then he went on to fight two of those guys 3 times. times. So I mean,
that's the thing.
The
Is
funniest part was that Ben, we got to interview Ben. We were like the first group to ask Ben questions. It was me, then Alex, and we just like everybody's looking to like shit on Ben and like embarrass him, and we just asked him completely irrelevant questions that had nothing to do with the fight.
You asked about crypto.
Alex was like, Ben, what do you think about USA wrestling? And he's like, oh, he just goes off on a tangent about it. I'm like, Ben, what do you think about Cardano and specifically Charles Hoskinson, like some cryptocurrency questions?
That's a guy. That guy is awesome. Like that's a guy that's got a lot of stuff figured out. Like, and that's the thing. Like the MMA world sucks for that regard, right? Like the guy was a world champion in 2 organizations. It was fantastic. Was an Olympian and has good perspective on life. Like, dude, like you read his book and stuff and his competition IQ and like how he coaches and how he works with the kids and like it's so funny. And then you watch like him talk about wrestling, especially like youth athletes. And then you watch like Kyler Sanderson as well out in Utah talk about coaching and how they don't push them too hard. They don't make them cut a lot of weight, all this stuff. And then you watch the idiot parents that are like, no, this is how it's done. And they've never wrestled. It drives me nuts because that guy has good perspective on a lot of stuff, even finances and stuff. Like that guy has it together. Like I think a lot of more MMA fighters should be following his stuff to learn the game. But they don't because all they think about is Masvidal flying kneeing him like that. Yeah. You're throwing the baby out of the bathwater at that point. That guy's a genius.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben Askren, in a league of his own, went undefeated for like 20 straight fights. Like you said, 2 different organizations, champion. And, Douglas Lima, who I think is a great – wait, is it Douglas or Diego? Which Douglas, right?
Douglas was the Bellator. Yeah.
Yeah, Douglas Lima, amazing in his own right. Ben Askren disposed of Douglas Lima like he was nothing. Like, just absolutely tossed him around like a sack of potatoes. And Ben Askren has all the respect in the world, and that's why we kind of fed him some softball questions. The World Championship of Wrestling was in a week, and that was the year that Kyle Dake, David Taylor, like Jordan Burroughs, absolute all-star studded lineup. Kyle Snyder as well. That was a great year for USA Wrestling, and we had to feed him a couple softballs because.
Well, that's the thing too is like the way he handled that was stellar. Like, yeah. And he said going in like, if this guy can box, I'm not going to do well. Like, I don't think he can box. I'm going to beat him. Like, but the way he walked out, like head held high and stuff, like. I like that so much better. And maybe it's a preference than like every guy that loses now because everyone's ego is so fragile, has an excuse and this and that. And that's why even Strickland, like obviously some of the stuff he says is crazy, but the fact that, he comes out and says, no excuse. He broke my face. He was better tonight. Like finally someone owns up. Like, I like the guy, but Gregory Rodriguez. And then 2 weeks ago, it was somebody before that. Oh man, I had an injury.
Char Bullet.
Like, bro, here's the thing. You took the fight. You thought you had a good chance to take the fight. But now and you see the change, right? Like you start acting like celebrities, start dressing different, start talking different. And then all of a sudden you're buying your own hype and you can't admit you lost. Like that drives me nuts. Why don't you just make fun of yourself? Like, like we're doing YouTube stuff now a little bit. And I was like, bro, if you don't think at some point we're going to incorporate the slam from the Jakar Close fight into something on YouTube, you got another thing coming. Like I absolutely have to. Like that elephant in the room, I've got to use it. Like, what am I going to pretend like it never happened and like take myself super serious? Like, Askren is the master of that, and I think more guys can learn from that. But guys don't want to hear the hard stuff of like you take yourself too serious, nobody actually cares about you.
Joel is sucky.
We still got that one for you if you want, if you remember.
That was before I knew you, Joe. Now I'm your biggest fan. So there you go.
And I mean, Sean Bullet saying he has the flu. He hung out with Ronaldo the day before. That man is worth like $4 billion. Don't touch Ronaldo if you have the damn flu, okay?
Rodriguez. Oh, I didn't recover from the weight cut. Well, yeah. You're bigger than all the heavyweights.
Yeah.
Yes, of course you didn't recover.
I'm sorry that you starved yourself and sucked all the water out of your body so you'd have an advantage over smaller men.
You didn't recover. Shocker. That guy was a giant. Oh my
God. Like, dude, you put an ass whooping on Cannonier for like 2 rounds. Like,
and meanwhile, Jared Cannonier was a heavyweight fighting obesity and then managed to work his way down to middleweight.
And he's 40 years old. And like, don't come out and say that. Oh, so, guys, never any excuses. No sad stories here, but also here's my sad story. Like, bro,
the weight cut thing kills me because it's like you don't need to cut weight. You're taking in, and it's like I always say, it's like if you're an old man talking to your grandson, and you're saying like, oh, your granddad had a trick. See, I would starve myself and suck all the water out so I'd have an advantage over smaller men and I'd fight them. It's like, Grandpa, that sounds kind of like you were a coward. I don't know. I mean, like
That's the only thing in Vision Quest they got wrong. I mean, obviously they had to do it because wrestling, weight cutting is a part of the sport. But if you think about it, he was cutting to beat the smaller guy, to be a bully, a weight bully.
That's true.
Yeah,
But
if you
if
went
one
for the harder opponent, but realistically,
do
if
it
one
with
of the
dignity.
match should have went up.
Yeah, if you can do it with dignity, nowhere like Marab, Ilya, Topuria, Marab Dvalishvili, the Georgians, they just do it and don't complain at all. I saw a video of Ilya talking and Marab talking. They were like, "Brother, this is easy. This is nothing. Like this is we do this small piece, we get to live our dream." It's like do it with dignity. Stop crying about it all the time. You know,
Ilya Taporia gets drunk while he's cutting weight. I mean, it's like counterproductive in a way, but also smart. I don't know.
For sure.
your doppelganger, Ilya Taporia, along with Luigi. So two doppelgangers show us. So listen, I don't want to cut this short. We could talk to you all night, Joe, but I know you got kids. So my wife just had her second child. I got a boy now.
Wow.
That's who just popped in when I had to get off camera. She's putting him to bed now. So I got a little girl and a little boy. You got a little girl.
That's
and a little
amazing,
boy.
bro. Congratulations. Yes. Both.
Yep.
And
So
my daughter is the best. My son is the best. My son's a lunatic. He's just
And you're both elite fighters too, you and Luke. You guys have a lot in common.
My hands are a little better. Joe got the jiu-jitsu, but I got
There you go.
better
There
hands.
you go.
Maybe a little celebrity boxing match. On there, right?
One last question.
Big ball or bust, okay?
Before we get you out of here, how do you think Luke would do in a boxing match with Tyson Chartier?
Does he actually know anything?
Not Luke or Tyson?
Tyson.
That's what I'm saying, Joe. Because
Right answer.
guys out there, and I mean, he has like 3 guys in the UFC, and he sends them out there, and they just take 500 headshots every fight. And I think personally, if you're a coach and your fighters go out there and in a win take 500 shots to the head, that's negligence. That's like malpractice. You know what I mean?
I was thinking about it the other day. Was I was thinking about that. 'Cause even for my own YouTube channel, I just have to talk about. Like, there's a fighter's code in my mind. Like, you never quit on the stool. And then, 'cause I was thinking about the coach's code. I was thinking about the Nick thing, and I was like, man, he broke the coach and fighter etiquette. You put it out there in the public. And I was like, man, like the fighter should never stop the fight, but that's the coach's job. Like you can't let that. Like I think about the one where they were like, when Dana goes up to him, he's like, man, get him to the hospital before he dies. Like,
Cater versus Holloway.
yeah, you got to stop that, man. Or there was one the other day that was like that. I can't remember which fight it was, but either way, man, at a certain point, I know MMA has a lot of variables. You can always come back, but man, like you got to live to fight another day. Like again, I'm talking like a retired guy because I would never say that when I'm fighting, but it's just that, yeah, for sure.
Joe, we can talk to you all day. Congratulations. I'm just joking around about getting you back in there for one more, getting you in there with Jake Paul. But I do think that you have a long jiu-jitsu career ahead of you, submission grappling. The UFC's got a lot of grappling stuff. I'd love to see you twist Mikey Musa Messi's fucking head off. I think that would be amazing.
That is good.
I'd like to see you snap that pizza boy in half. But, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, I guess. But good luck in all your endeavors. We're here watching, cheering. You're welcome on the show anytime. You were joking before we started about being the 4th chair. I mean, that's a verbal contract. So we'll see you next Mondays at 8. And we got to get you. I don't know if it's legal in North Kakalaki, but we got to get you a DraftKings account. We're going to get you gambling now. You need a
man. I did quite a bit of gambling the last couple months, and not on sports. I did not do well in sports, but I had I'll say this. I'm not going to talk about it, but I had 2 legendary blackjack runs. That were absurd, and one was after my fight. Like we went on a tear. It was unbelievable, actually. So
I love that.
Yeah, it paid for the new mats for all in. I could just say that.
You should have met up with Dana White and had him take you through this.
Yeah, to him it was nothing, but to me, to him he'd be like, "That's what I spend on my tab," But so no more gambling for me. I see how people lose everything. It's very addictive.
Hey, you can see from right next to our names. But thanks again for everything. Being the first fighter on the show. You're the absolute man. I actually hit Joe up when I was training back in the day to get a bit of a regiment, get a more regimented schedule, and he was helpful even back
Did I
then.
answer? Okay, thank God.
He did, and he was the man. Gave me like a very precise, specific list of things to do, or what he does and what works for him. And he was like, add and subtract whatever doesn't work for you, but this is how I got here. So you're the absolute.
Alex didn't fault that at all, but it was good.
Yeah. He's like, actually, it made me gain weight, so don't follow anything Joe says. I would leave his school and go on.
No.
Alex had a hernia lifting groceries off the ground and decided fight life wasn't for him. But yeah,
Yeah, I got beat by a literal bag of groceries.
Joe's talking about going into a fight with a broken orbital from training, and Alex got taken out of the game by a bag of groceries. So
hey, there's more to the story than that. It's an elective surgery. They made me wait 6 months with my organs popping out of my stomach. Okay, take it easy. But once again, Joe, appreciate everything. You're the absolute man. Hassett's rise up. Oh, I had one more question. Can I just ask one more question? Have you ever trained with the baby Hulk?
Yeah, we trained in Wilmington. Yes, it's funny. It's actually very funny.
He's the Street Beefs guy, right?
Yes, great kid. I say kid. I think he's my age. But he's just very energetic, so he just seems a lot younger. He's very spunky, but super nice dude. Yeah, David, great kid. But we trained in Wilmington for a couple of years. And the funniest part, and not a funny part, because he has a good little. I'm such a jerk. He has a good fight career. Like he's like 5-2 or something. Like he's on the rise as a pro. But when he was like a no fight amateur, like he had never fought yet. He just did street beefs. And people would come in the gym, and I was already in the UFC, and John's getting ready to fight for the belt in Bellator. They'd be like, "Oh my gosh, like Baby Hulk trains here. Can you take a picture? like can you take our?" It was so funny. People come in to meet him. Like, and dude, I've watched him after his fight in Myrtle Beach, like selling T-shirts, taking money hand over fist. Like he has built a very nice brand for himself. But he can scrap, man. He's a tough little guy.
So wait,
Yeah.
we're 1 degree of separation from Baby Hulk. Joe, could you maybe talk to Baby Hulk and get me and/or Alex into street beefs? I want to fight I want to fight like a 6-year-old guy.
100%. I kind of said that joking years ago. I was like, bro, like if I ever got desperate for like a following, I would just go on street beefs as like the only UFC fighter to ever go on street beefs.
We are desperate for
Yeah.
So I will do it for free. Street beefs, get me in there against like a 65-year-old guy.
In his backyard.
Yeah. All right. This is going to be great. We'll talk offline about that for sure. And another thing I want to say is while you're in the gym, we want to open this up to like, hey, if you got any other fighters who are regional, who are working their way into the UFC, who are working their way into PFL, whatever, throw them our way. We'll interview them next time, bring them on. Like we'll talk.
Oh man, we got some characters that would be interesting to talk to. Way more interesting than me.
I've been meaning to say this for like several episodes we've had you on. It's like, yo, promote some of the other guys that you got coming up, throw them on here, and we'd love to talk to them. So that offer is also extended. We're gonna get down to North Carolina to visit you, get in there, meet Baby Hulk, maybe get into a street beef. I'll get a whole gimmick going.
Dude, we run periodically like camps. They're free. Like a winter camp, a spring camp is just a day or two of training, and it's every discipline. So we'll have a wrestling session, 2 jiu-jitsu sessions, kickboxing, wall wrestling, whatever. Like it's everything. And then usually what we do at night is my buddy Diego, the kickboxing coach, runs a smoker. So there's like 3 fights. I mean, not fights, but they're intense sparring to watch too. So it's a pretty good time. So that's the perfect time to come visit.
Amazing. Joe, any parting words? Anything you want to say, just as a final stamp on the conversation?
No, man. Thank you guys for having me. This is great. It was good to get to explain myself a little bit. Like I said, my plan was originally just go on a podcast and announce it there, and then I got impatient. But then when I said that to you, you're like, "Oh, come on!" I was like, "Oh, that'd be great. That'd be awesome." Nah, man. This has been great. I appreciate you guys always having me on. It's cool who you actually get to know and build a relationship with. And there's like, obviously, you guys were a lot closer than I am with anybody else I've done interviews with. But there is a few that like I have built a relationship with outside of fighting. Some even left fighting and reached out and were like, "Oh, what's up? Like, I don't have to cover the sport anymore." So thank you guys for always having me on. And yeah, man, this has been a blast. Of course, I already posted giant thank you, so I don't need to sit here and take up time with that. But this has been awesome. Like, and that's the thing. I don't want this to sound like, man, the week we got back from the fight, with the next weekend was the pay-per-view. Like, we were sitting on the couch, cheering, watching. Like, I love this sport. This is the best thing I have ever done. It's just time. And I'm super excited about it. So I'll still be around a lot. I will still be. Somebody asked me the other day, like, what does the day-to-day look like now? Like, are we going to see? I was like, I'm going to be in the gym more. Like, I have more, admin work to do and more, like, marketing stuff, like all kinds of stuff like that, and plus training. So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So it's just the next best thing. Like we always talk about that in training is like, if you get hung up on the thing you're trying to get, an armbar, whatever it is, and like you lose it and you keep staying on it, you're going to get smoked. But you just get the next best thing. Keep getting the next best thing and the next best thing.
Terry Brands.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And the next thing you know, you won the match, right? And that's all this is. So now it's time to, I told my daughter the other day, and then I'll end it at this. She was like, in one of her movies, they say something about Las Vegas. She's like, Las Vegas, Daddy, that's where you work. And I was like, yeah, I don't think anymore though. I said, I'm not going to go pop-ups anymore. How about that? She's like, no, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to try to get some gold medals. How about that? She's like, can I get some gold medals? I said, yeah, let's do it together. So it's on to the next thing. And I have to say one thing, and this was like, again, all these things that were just kind of like just eye-opening experiences. The week after we got back was like our second tournament ever as a team, at least since I got here and kind of headed up the jiu-jitsu program. And we took 50 people to compete in Charlotte, and we ended up, it was a whole big dispute. They had us in second because there was 3 spellings of GMO and I'm like, I'm showing the guy, I'm like, dude, if you total it, we tied for first and we win the tiebreaker because we have more gold medals. So we win. We won as a team. They gave us second and then it fixed online. We tied for first, it says. But let's just say that either way, dude, we had a tremendous showing. And that was like, and I'm just looking around at all that. And like, my kids are there, my wife's there, all the competitors, like there's families and their kids are there. And it was just, I'm like, dude, like this is the next chapter. And like, this was always the plan. Like, this was always the plan, so, and coaching the fighters. So on to the next. And this has been a freaking incredible journey. So thank you guys very much for having me on.
Joe, enjoy the next chapter. We love you. Obviously, open invite anytime. And yeah, man, best of luck.
You guys tell me when. I will come back and talk fighting, not about myself for once, and about what's coming up. And that'll be awesome. I like fights coming up and picks. I'm the worst picker ever, so I'm not putting money up. But I will definitely give some insight and inside baseball.
Hell yeah.
What a long, strange trip it's been. Joe, happy trails.
Hey, see you guys. Good night.
Good night.
Good night,
God
man.
bless you and the fam. I think he's still got one more in him. We'll see.